Welcome to A Place for Film, the IU Cinema podcast. On this week's episode, we've got the spring schedule. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the show. My name is Andy Hunsucker.
I'm Jason Thompson.
And on this week's episode, we've got the 2014 spring cinema schedule. Hot off the presses. This is like really hot off the presses, right?
You two are the first two to have copies in their hands besides our staff.
Excellent.
Nice.
Yep. With us, of course, is Jon Vickers, director of the IU Cinema, to talk all about the schedule, let us know all the secrets, and hype it up.
That's right, yeah.
It does not need hyping. It hypes itself quite well, I think. A lot of big names this semester.
You know, it's all relative. We do have some big names that we think, but I think some of the folks that we have coming that folks might not know about, we think are maybe some of our biggest names. Like Kiarostami, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. Well, I still think Kiarostami is kind of a big name.
Okay.
I was counting Kiarostami in the big names.
That's awesome.
All right. All right. Well, let's talk about this schedule. The IU Cinema Spring 2014 schedule is out by the time you're listening to this. There will be copies of this in the cinema that you can grab.
Yep.
The flipbook is up online. You can check it out and follow along with us. We're not going to go through everything here, obviously. There's too much. There's always too much. Too much to go to, too much to enjoy, but something for everyone, I think. So, John, I don't know where to start.
Yeah, how about if I lead a little bit?
You go right ahead.
So the first, we'll start with Kiarostami because he's actually coming up. The series starts about the time this airs. So we have the Iranian filmmaker Abbas Kiarostami coming. And we think that this might be maybe the biggest coup that the cinema's had so far in its 3 years of being open. He's an international superstar. He's influenced so many filmmakers. Jean-Luc Godard said cinema started with D.W. Griffith and ended with Kiarostami, for what that's worth.
Yeah.
And Martin Scorsese is praised as genius. Anyway, he is a master filmmaker, and we're very pleased to have him coming. We're screening a total of, I think, 9 films.
It's a long series.
It's a long series, including his Coker trilogy, which is a trilogy of three films that take place in rural Iran, and all involving young people or children. Mm-hmm. And but you mentioned The Traveler earlier. The Traveler is his last black and white film and considered maybe his first feature or his first full-length feature. Mm-hmm. And but it's about a young boy, a hustler, who wants to go to a soccer game. And he has a camera, but he has no film, and he hustles people by taking pictures without film, promising them to get the prints back to them. But he earns enough money to go to the soccer game. But there's a lot of conflict. But Kiarostami loves to work with non-actors. He loves to work with young kids. He loves to get what he feels are genuine performances on screen. One of the films that we're screening is called 10. Which is 10 conversations inside of a car. Kiarostami likes to film inside cars. Mm-hmm. But in those 10 conversations, they're all improvised conversations with Kiarostami as the director having a conversation with whomever he's filming, whether it's a passenger or a driver, and trying to get genuine experiences or again, performances out of these people. But what some of the things that we're most excited about the Kiarostami visit is one of his maybe most poetic films is The Wind Will Carry Us, which is the first film that we open with when he's here. That will be screened on Thursday the 23rd at 6:30 p.m. And then following that, we have Close Up, which is maybe one of his more challenging films, but experimental in many ways.
I want to talk about Close Up for a second here because
sure.
I've only seen 2 Kiarostami films. I saw Certified Copy last year, which I found I couldn't stop talking about for weeks. Mm-hmm. And I watched Close Up recently. And Close Up is a film, I didn't read anything about it. I just put the DVD in and I just started watching.
Sure.
And I was baffled for the entire length of the film because I couldn't figure out what the heck he was doing. And then finally, when the film was over, I actually read the description, and it all made sense.
Yeah.
Because what he did was there was like a news story, And so what he did was he did about a guy who pretended to be a famous filmmaker.
Correct.
Lied to a family to convince them that he was this filmmaker and he was going to like cast them in his next film or something.
Right.
And then he was arrested, charged with fraud, and Kiarostami went to go make, I guess, a documentary about this guy, filmed his whole trial. But what the film does is it intercuts scenes of recreations of this with the actual people who were involved in all this. So the family, the guy who defrauded them, all of it. So it's cut between like scenes of the courtroom of like, you know, all this stuff and then what actually happened, what their best recollections of how all of this came about. But he doesn't tell you that that's what he's doing. He just does it. And it's fascinating.
Right. Going into that film without knowing either the Iranian filmmaker who he pretended to be or knowing any of the backstory can, you know, definitely be confusing. But if you know that one little nugget, I think then it all, you know, kind of flows together.
It's an amazing film, though.
An amazing film, and Kiarostami very much likes to play with mixing fiction and nonfiction and you know, blurring the line, maybe similar to Herzog and others, but he really likes to do that. So, yes, it'll be interesting to hear him talk about Close-Up. The next day, on the 25th, I believe, Friday, we have a Jorgensen lecture, and this is something that we're really excited about. We have Richard Pena, who is the former head of the New York Film Festival and programmer for Lincoln Center Film Society. He's coming out. He's being flown out by Cohen Media, who's releasing The Wind Will Carry Us on Blu-ray. And we're doing an in-cinema taped conversation with Kiarostami that will be a bonus feature on the Blu-ray release. So,
very cool.
You know, interview at the IU Cinema. And so we're very excited about that.
Yeah.
And so I think having Richard Pena, who's known Kiarostami for a number of years, to be on hand actually for a few days while Kiarostami's here, which will also be, you know, pretty great.
Yeah, and that's on the 24th, Friday the 24th at 3 p.m.
And then other films in the series, we have, I mentioned 10, but before 10, we have Taste of Cherry on Friday the 24th at 6:30 p.m. This was the first Kiarostami film that I had ever seen, and it's about a man who, and there's no spoiler, who wants to commit suicide. And but he wants somebody to go along with him. He's in a car. He wants somebody to drive up into the mountains with him to bury him after he does it. And so it's a series of conversations with people trying to convince them to do this. And everybody has their reasons why they might not want to do it or why he should not commit suicide. So it's a great interaction of conversations with these people trying to convince him not to kill himself.
Yeah.
And so that's, I think, because it was my first experience with Kiarostami, maybe is my favorite Kiarostami film. And then the following day, I mentioned we get into the Coker trilogy with Where's the Friend's House, and then we follow it up with I'm sorry, I didn't mention this too, that we also have another filmmaker traveling with Kiarostami. His name's Adel Yaragi, and he made a film called Meeting Leela, and I don't know much about the film other than it played festivals, but it was co-written by Abbas Kiarostami. So we're screening that in the afternoon on Saturday the 25th, and he'll be there, and Kiarostami will be there as well. So it'll be a great visit. The films, I think, can be challenging for some people because they are they're paced. They can be considered slow, but you have to kind of let yourself go and I think to really get into the films. It's again, I think it's a visit and it's a series that we're very proud of and we're excited. And I know that we have a lot of folks driving down from Chicago and elsewhere to come in for this.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting. I was not super familiar with Kiarostami until last year when Certified Copy came, and I still am not as familiar with him as I should be. So I'm really, really happy about this series.
Yeah, and we made a conscious decision to focus on his films in Iran. We had screened his two other most recent films, Certified Copy and Like Someone in Love, and so we wanted to focus on his films in Iran because we think they need some attention, and especially, and I'll say this once, and it's not a political act, but it's I think now is a good time to look at stories from Iranians, and because we're not exposed to those types of things in mainstream media, and so anyway, we're very much excited about that series.
Yeah.
we'll touch on a few of the other big ones, and then we'll dig maybe deeper. So the next one that maybe we'll talk about is Roger Corman.
Very excited about Roger Corman.
Yeah, and me too. And so he has been involved in, I don't know, something like 400 films. I mean, perhaps maybe one of the most prolific filmmakers living, and he has launched the careers of a lot of filmmakers that have gone on to make great work. And we wanted to try to, highlight. I mean, you could do an entire semester of films influenced by Roger Corman, or films that made by filmmakers who worked with Roger Corman. But we're only highlighting 4 of them. So we have a double feature from Martin Scorsese, a double feature from Francis Ford Coppola, a double feature from Joe Dante, and then a double feature from
Bogdanovich.
Peter Bogdanovich. And we wanted to do a double feature of Jonathan Demme films, but we couldn't track down rights on Stop Making Sense, and couldn't find a print for Caged Heat was what we were going to show. So, but anyway, with the 4 double features we have, plus I think 6 or 7 films of Roger Corman's when he's in town, I think it's a good introduction to Corman as a filmmaker. We're also screening the documentary Corman's World, which I don't know if either of you have seen.
I saw it. It's really good.
Pretty amazing. I mean, I thought I knew a bit about Corman, but to really, find out a lot more about Corman, and it's pretty amazing what he has accomplished as a filmmaker. And I think he's in his early 80s right now, but he's still producing films. I mean, he's still active, and I think it's something that I know it's something that we're all pretty excited about.
And I'm really excited. So after watching that documentary, I'm really excited to see The Intruder as a film in this series, because it's basically like, in the documentary they talk about it like it's a film they really took seriously. Everyone thinks of Roger Corman as like he'll make anything as cheap as possible just to get it out there. And if it's supposed to be bad, it's not supposed to be bad. This film in particular, they talked about like this was the best film we ever made, and it made no money. It's the only film we ever lost money on because nobody was ready to see it at that time. But it's about William Shatner plays a white supremacist who shows up to cause trouble in a southern town, and it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, and if you remember from the documentary, they filmed it during the Civil Rights Movement, and so it was a pretty heated time to be down south filming a film about this subject, and I don't remember if there were death threats or not, but they risked a lot to make this film, and there is something that they were very proud of. And like you said, financially it was a flop, but I think critically it's considered one of his better films. The other film that I'm excited to see is The Terror, which is
I was hoping you'd mention it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it on screen, and just the origin of this film. They were on location, and I can't remember where the location was, but they had a castle. And they decided on the weekend, because they had the castle free.
They were shooting like The Raven or something.
Yeah, they were shooting one of the Poe films. Exactly right. And so they had the opportunity on the weekend to create something else, and so they frantically wrote something and put something loosely together that seemed to make no sense. But then they came back and reshot different things. But I think there are a total of 5 or 6 directors credited on the film, including I think Francis Ford Coppola is credited. Jack Nicholson is credited for directing Corman. So it'll be fun to watch on screen.
Yeah, the movie kind of just randomly found itself into my collection because I think it was like a $1 at Best Buy or something. It was like the crappy DVD copy of it, and I was like, oh, it's got Jack Nicholson in it, and I've never heard of this. Let me watch it. I watched it, and I was like, this is really good. Like in a almost bad way, but not really. It was just like, okay, I think this is bad, but I'm really enjoying this.
Yeah, nice.
It's just one of those movies that I've always just had this weird nostalgia for, and revisit it sort of around, not necessarily at Halloween, but kind of around that time. And I wore out my DVD copy of it because it was either that poorly produced, like in terms of the DVD itself, or I watched it a lot. Probably both, actually.
Yeah,
so I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I just got this on Blu-ray. In fact, this same movie. It is strangely good bad, and it's like you're watching it and you're like, I shouldn't be really enjoying this at all, but I really enjoy it. So.
And then the double feature of The Wild Angels and The Trip, which should be a lot.
I'm really excited to see The Wild Angels. I really am excited to see that.
So I think, I think that should actually be a really popular series for us. And one of the influences for that, we've actually been working with Corman for about 1.5 years trying to get him here. And we, on one of our audience surveys, we had a criticism that we weren't showing enough new American cinema from the 70s. And so this was a good answer to that by doing the double features, I think. And then, before we get to our biggest name, let's talk about the Burroughs Century. And I know you're going to talk to the folks here about it in a bit. But we have 8 films tied to the 100th birthday of William Burroughs, and so we're screening 8 films that either feature Burroughs or were influenced by Burroughs' writing. So we're screening actually a restored version of a documentary called Burroughs the Movie by a filmmaker named Howard Brookner. It was made in, I believe, 1983 or 1984, and this film had a crew that consisted of folks like Tom DiCillo and Jim Jarmusch and other Burroughs fans that were filmmakers getting into the scene that really wanted to help capture Burroughs. But this film really never had a proper release, or if it did, it disappeared, and it was restored and being reissued by Howard Brookner's nephew, Aaron Brookner, who's going to be here for the screening. So we're screening that as a Midwest premiere, which we're pretty excited about. We are screening a shorts program of the Anthony Balch films, which some of the titles are The Cut-Ups, Towers Open Fire. These are all pretty experimental and challenging. We're screening the newer film called Kill Your Darlings, which I actually haven't seen yet, but there's a Burroughs character played by Ben Foster. Drugstore Cowboy, which is based on a Burroughs story. Chappaqua, which is a Conrad Rooks film from, I think, the 60s, maybe 60s. I don't know what, I can't see the date without my glasses, but really experimental and challenging and tough to watch at times. Naked Lunch, and then one of my favorites in a creepy way, Haxan Witchcraft Through the Ages. It's a 1922 silent film by Benjamin Christensen. But what this Anthony Balch, a producer at the time, had done is hired Burroughs to do a voiceover. So they cut the film down a bit, but then Burroughs created a dialogue or a narration for the film. And the combination of the narration and the creepy images that were present in the film already makes this a really bizarre trip.
Yeah.
But I think that's enough for now.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of discussion about all that.
Then let's talk about now Meryl Streep.
Yeah, Meryl Streep, whatever. I guess we can do that. Just the biggest name actress of this generation. Yeah. She's going to stop by for a bit. No big deal.
She is. I mean, we've been working to get Meryl Streep back to campus. She was here maybe 1.5 years ago, and then she was at the CAB building to donate.
Her husband is a sculptor. He donated a sculpture. He went to IU.
Correct.
And she was here right before the cinema opened as well for some kind of, I can't remember what group brought her here.
Yeah, it was the Women's Philanthropy Council, and they're involved in this visit as well. So we're very fortunate to have her here, and she's going to, the events that she'll be present for at the cinema are going to be, one event is going to be a Jorgensen lecture at the IU auditorium, so we decided to have the additional space. And that lecture will be led by Professor Barb Klinger, who I think you've had on the show before. Yeah. But then there's a special presentation in the cinema. So this is going to be a Wednesday night, and you guys want the scoop on what that special presentation is?
Yeah.
We let her choose a film, and she chose to screen the Prairie Home Companion film.
Okay. I love that movie.
It's I don't know if it was Robert Altman's last film.
I don't know about his last film, but it was near the end.
Yeah, near the end, and it has a very Midwestern feel, and those are Meryl Streep's words, and she just felt it was fitting for this, something that she wanted to be present for and talk about. So that'll be exciting. It's impossible to pare down a partial retrospective with somebody who has such impressive of a filmography.
Yeah.
So we did our best to highlight things that we knew that she was proud of, as well as things that we wanted to screen, and there were a few folks that had input into this. But we're excited, with the lineup. So the lineup has The Iron Lady, Silkwood, the new film August Osage County, which I think had a limited release for Oscar qualification, but doesn't open maybe until March.
It's March, yeah. That's what I thought.
The special presentation of Prairie Home Companion, Sophie's Choice, Music of the Heart, which she's very proud of, and we knew that she loved that film, and then Fantastic Mr. Fox to coincide with when we're screening Wes Anderson's new film.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good series, and it's pretty darn exciting for us.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. I know that you've been working on this for a while. She's one of those names that just privately you've sort of said, hey, this could happen. And so I'm really excited that for the cinema that it's actually going to happen this time.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know that, we invite a lot of filmmakers, and we get rejected all the time. and so, especially when you're inviting somebody of her stature, and this, recently we've invited, some other folks of her stature, male actors and directors, and we thought we were close. But anyway, it's a thrill when somebody says yes, and we think we're doing good work, and we present things well, and we host well. But to have somebody say yes is really a thrill, especially somebody of this caliber.
Yeah.
Another filmmaker that we were really excited about, but she had to cancel for scheduling because of scheduling issues, was Chantal Ackerman, and her work is very experimental. But she's a filmmaker that has been completely, what do I want to say? She's very well respected, especially in the academic community, and it's unfortunate that she can't come. But we're screening 3 of her films, Jean Dielman, Elmayer's Folly, and then News from Home. News from Home is tied to the Underground film series. Let's talk about President's Choice.
Let's do that.
Yeah. So President's Choice, each semester we give President Michael McRobbie a chance to choose films that either he hasn't seen in a while and wants to, or things that he's really excited about. And he chose, which I was very excited about, a series of films from the Italian master Luchino Visconti. And we've screened one of the films in the past, The Leopard. And it's maybe one of my top 10 films of all time, so I'm happy to see it again. But we're screening 4 other films, and I've only seen one of the 4. So we're screening Le Notte Bianche, or The White Nights, which I have not seen, and that is going to be past by the time this airs. We're screening Rocco and His Brothers, a film called Sandra, which is actually a Sony release of one of his films, and I haven't seen that either. And then we're screening Death in Venice, which I have seen. And from what I remember of the film, and maybe I shouldn't talk about plot points. I'm not going to, because I don't remember the film that well. But what I do remember about all of these films, or at least about the 2 I've seen, is Visconti has meticulous. He pays meticulous attention to detail. And so, for instance, in The Leopard, he wanted to use 17th century furniture in The Leopard, or 18th century furniture. He very much pays attention to the details, and all of these films are pretty lavish. And I think if you're looking for a film with great detail, with great beauty, any of these films I think would fill the ticket. But sorry, that's a pretty much of a washover. But the president is going to be on hand to introduce Death in Venice.
Excellent. I don't know how many university presidents there are that could consistently pick films of this quality and make, challenge you to be like, yeah, this is a movie that, you probably maybe haven't seen before, maybe you're not familiar with, maybe you're not familiar with this filmmaker, you should be.
Sure. Yeah, I think we're of course we're fortunate to have him as our president, because I don't think the cinema would be here if he weren't here. But to have somebody that we're giving an opportunity to choose films, to have such great taste in films, it's certainly a bonus. There are many other things here. one that I'll just touch on is this South Asian gangster films. What this is I think an attempt to show audiences that there's much more to South Asian or Indian film than Bollywood. And so these are not Bollywood films. These are hard-hitting, action-packed gangster films. And I urge. One of them is based on a Shakespeare play, and I don't remember which one. I think it's Makbul. We were trying to get a third film, even though there are 3 parts to this. We tried to get a third film called Omkara, which was also based on a Shakespeare play. And Omkara and Makbul are 2 films that I've seen, but these are very much Scorsese-ish gangster films, set in India. And I think it'll be, albeit violent, it'll be a refreshing look at Indian cinema for folks that haven't been exposed to something like this. I don't know. Where do you want to go next?
I want to talk about Edward James Olmos.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Edward James Olmos is going to be here.
He is.
You've got, the film you're bringing that I've seen is the latest John Sayles film,
Go for
Sisters, which I saw at South by Southwest. Not my favorite Sayles film, but it's a Sayles film, and it's got a perspective. It's got something to say. The acting is amazing. It's a very complex story. And Edward James Olmos is the best thing about it. As soon as he's on screen, you can't stop watching him.
Yeah.
And I'm just really excited that he's going to be here.
Yeah, that's a big deal for us too. And so this is tied to the Latino Film Festival and Conference. And Olmos is very proud of this film, and that's one of the reasons we chose it as well. I think it's a good film. But like you said, not one of Sayles' best. But I think it fits also the theme of what they're trying to get across in the festival as well. And almost produced the film, and again, this is something that he was very proud of. The other film that we're screening is a film that I'm not familiar with, and it's In the Time of the Butterflies. And it was actually, it may have been a TV movie or an HBO film. It might have been an HBO movie, but... So I'm not familiar with it, so I can't speak to it at all, other than it has Salma Hayek and
Mark Anthony.
But and then he'll do a Jorgensen lecture, which will be an interview with a scholar from UCLA, Chan Noriega. But it's that's another big deal for us, I think.
Yeah.
And all of those screenings are free. The lecture's free. The Streep event is free. The Corman series has a $3 charge to it. So if you want a chance, and the Kiarostami films are free. So if you want a chance to see a handful, 4 pretty renowned filmmakers this semester, it's going to cost you very little.
Yes. Yeah. And I think what's interesting about the Edward James Olmos series, I think you'll pull in people who aren't interested in these films, but they want to see Edward James Olmos. Right.
I hope so.
Yeah. But they'll get a little bit extra. They'll get something that they didn't expect, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah.
Obviously he's very famous for playing Admiral Adama on Battlestar Galactica, which is an amazing role for anyone. But so
we'll give them a little medicine with their sugar.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
One thing I want to talk about, I'm so excited you got this film in the family.
Patrick
Wang. And I met this guy at Ebert Fest briefly, and I gave him your email. I don't know if that's how he got a hold of you, but I missed his film at Ebert Fest, and I felt bad about it. And I heard him talk all week at Ebert Fest, and he's brilliant. He has a great sense of what he wants to put on the screen, and he has a very strong perspective. And everyone at Eberfest said this was the film to see, and I missed it. So
you'll get a chance.
I'm happy to have a chance to see it again.
Well, it did spark from your introduction, and so when the folks that we're working with in Asian American Studies, that's not the right name for their group, but sorry, folks. But when we were working with our partners on this series, that it was a title that I immediately mentioned, and I mentioned that I had contact with the filmmaker, and we reached out to him, and he was very excited to come.
Yeah.
So I think he might be based in Chicago.
It's nearby. And also, I think this film he's distributing it all himself. It's
Correct.
just him.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting.
You're seeing more and more of that self-distribution, and actually that could be another show at some point.
Yeah.
Because distribution models have changed quite a bit, and you mentioned earlier in the program that it takes a year to see something come around, and sometimes it's longer than that. Even a couple of years. And but the whole landscape is changing quite a bit.
Yeah, it just makes me feel better. But when I go to film festivals, that I don't have to feel bad for not seeing something, because at some point it will get to me. There's a better chance now than there probably was 10 years ago. That's for sure.
Right.
So that's exciting to sort of schedule, film festivals, and then sort of just keep those in mind when you see them, and you're like,
right,
perfect, and then sort of hit it whenever you can get to it.
Yeah.
Can we talk about, you may talk to the City Lights folks at some point, but I want to talk about one of the presentations.
Okay.
So the Smiling Madame Boudot, and that's one of two films. So there's two French silent films that we're screening. And one's a Jean Epstein film, and the other, I can't see with my glasses who the other filmmaker is. But one is an early feminist film. But what I'm excited about for this screening is we have a non-traditional score. So the band Garden Gates, which is a local band here, is going to perform the score live. And to complicate things even more, the films are pulled from the Bradley Collection, which is the collection, one of the collections here on campus. And these films had French intertitles. So we're scanning these films, and I think they're being scanned in 2K, and we're going to create a DCP, but then we're going to then edit in our own intertitles in English.
Okay.
And so it's a real project.
Yeah.
But this is going to be one of those things that you can see nowhere else.
Yeah.
And so and then what we're hoping to do is record that score and then be able to offer these films are public domain. Be able to offer that DCP with the recorded score to other cinematheques to program, and we'll see if that works. But, the other thing that is maybe worth a mention is we have The Lady from Shanghai, the Orson Welles film. There's a new restoration of the film by Sony, which premiered, I think it's premiering either at Sundance. I can't remember if it has premiered before Sundance, but they're playing it at Sundance. And we're going to have the introduction by James Naremore.
I smell another James Naremore.
He knows a little bit about Orson Welles.
He does.
Just a little bit.
An excuse to get Jim Naremore back on the show. Excellent.
And there's a lot of materials, I think, on The Lady from Shanghai at the Lilly Library. So we're also having Craig Simpson as part of that. So there'll be an onstage conversation between the two of them.
Excellent.
Which we're excited about.
Oh, yeah.
The Act of Killing, Andy, I know you wanted to talk about that, and I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either.
Okay.
We were very graciously offered a screener, and I have not watched it yet. So we'll get to it.
It's just one of those movies, sometimes when we get screeners, I'm like, okay, I can do this and also watch this at the same time. And it's like, with this one, I know I can't do it. Just based off of everything I've heard, it's like, I want to give it my full attention.
Yeah.
Same here. And in fact, I want to wait to see it on screen personally. There's something that may change my thoughts on that, and that is there's a chance that the filmmaker Josh Oppenheimer might be coming.
Oh,
wow. We're working with Union Board on this, and actually Union Board has give credit to Brandon Walsh, who was the former head of the film program there. He did some pretty progressive things this year with their film program, and this was one of the things that he's been working on as he was going out of his role there. So I'm hoping that this still happens to where we have the filmmaker here with us as well.
Yeah.
Then briefly, the Italian Film Festival and Conference happens every spring here in the cinema, and the filmmaker that they're bringing in this semester is Carlo Verdone. One of maybe the leading living Italian comics. He's an actor and director. And I was really impressed with ourselves knowing this after I saw the film The Great Beauty, which is in theaters right now, and I think it'll be nominated for a foreign language Oscar. But he's in it, and he has this. He plays a friend of the lead, and semi-comedic role, and I didn't know who he was until knowing he was coming. So I was excited about that. Talking about lavish beauty like the Visconti films, this film, The Great Beauty, is incredibly lavish. And if you get a chance to have a screener of that, you should check it out because it's pretty incredible. I think I've jumped around a bit, but there's a lot here, and I just encourage everybody to grab one, or you can dig into other things.
Jason, what are you looking forward to?
Well, one of them, I just want to say, if you've never seen A Very Long Engagement, definitely see that as a part of the World War I 100 Years Removed series, because that movie it's deep, but it's just so moving at the same time. And it's funny. It's just it's got everything. It's just I laugh whenever I see the picture that you've put in the book, just because she's playing the tuba, and I know exactly what that is in the movie, and it's just amazing. So I was really excited to see that.
And it has a great visual style to it.
Yeah, it does. It really does. Yeah. It just looks and is. It's just a really solid movie. And that one had been one that was on my Netflix queue for years. And I was like, fine, let's watch it. Because I think it actually had moved to the top.
Yeah.
And I was like, let's just get this over with. And I was like, why haven't I watched this already? So I like that one. And then there was another one. This one here.
Okay.
With the photographer, Finding Vivian Meyer. Is that Mayer?
Yes, I saw a news report about this.
Yeah,
this woman.
And I had read something about it online, and I just sort of was skimming through the digital version of the booklet before the show today, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, interesting. It just sounds fascinating, sort of the story behind that.
This woman took tons and tons and tons of pictures, never attempted to publish them, just put them in a box and set them aside. Somebody found them, won an auction for just a bunch of random stuff, not intending to get the pictures, looked at them and realized this woman was one of the greatest photographers of that era.
Yeah.
She just had these amazing photographs of just life on the street in her era. And no one ever heard of her until recently.
Yeah, and I think there's a little not conflict, maybe controversy as to whether she ever wanted them exposed.
Yeah.
So they're exposing them at this point, and the filmmaker's claim is she didn't destroy them. She didn't get rid of them. She was keeping them for somebody to find, and you don't know. But anyway, it was an incredible cache of photographs that are pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this? Should be a fun screening if you are open to this. And this is the Underground Alice.
Yeah.
So 3 Alice in Wonderland films.
Okay.
One of them animated, one of them pornographic, and I don't remember the other one is a combination of animation and live action. And great, interesting program that the Underground folks have come up with, and it's I think the day before. No, it is Valentine's Day.
So is this the Alice in Wonder? Is this the actual X-rated version, or is this the sort of cut down?
No, it's
very saucy R-rated.
It's the hot version.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no one under 18 is admitted.
We should explain that so we know you're not being crass. When you're shipped a film that has 2 versions like that, on the reel it actually says hot,
right? So
that that's the one that's actually pornographic.
Yeah. So this is one that again, no one under 18 will be admitted. But if you're interested in something different in these 3 versions of Alice, they're all very different, and it'll be a interesting.
It's
program.
the Underground Film Series. I mean, I would be disappointed if it wasn't the hot version.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They always manage to throw in just the one pornographic film in there every time. I'm also so I'm really excited. Let me bring up a couple things I'm excited about here, because I'm very excited about the Roger Corman series. I'm very excited to see Piranha on the big screen, because we have a weird connection to Piranha. So it was written by John Sayles, who we've had on the show. It was one of the accountants on the film was Michael Uslan. That was one of his first jobs. Roger Corman's going to be here. We're hoping, fingers crossed, we get him on the show. It just keeps coming up, this movie.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see it on the screen. Actually, I haven't seen this version. I'm really excited about Paper Moon, but you've got the new Wes Anderson film, The Grand Budapest Hotel.
Yes. Wes
Anderson, my favorite filmmaker of all time. I'm super excited. It's playing 4 nights. I might go all 4 nights.
That's awesome.
I'm really, really excited.
We have a challenge, for bigger films like this, we have a challenge as a university cinema to get, and we fought hard to get that into the program.
Yeah.
And there was a title that isn't in the program that we also fought equally as hard with Disney to get into the program, and they could not commit, was the new Miyazaki film.
Yeah.
And I'm really saddened that we couldn't get it into the program. I mean, at some point we'll do a Miyazaki retrospective.
Yes.
But I mean, it's his last film.
Andy's head will explode.
I will be at every single screening.
Okay. Yeah, but I was
love
so
Miyazaki.
disappointed that they would not commit,
Yeah.
and we waited until the very day we were going to print. I mean, we were just that hopeful.
Yeah, that's really too bad. I'm so excited to see that. There's so much good stuff here. Yeah, and you guys are doing double exposure again.
We are.
Always one of my favorite series. I'm hoping to have somebody on to talk about that. So much good stuff. Yeah.
Well, thanks. Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. You know, I don't know. If you're interested in art house films, I think it's a really solid program. I think we have we have a lot of good American films. There's a Japanese film here that I really love, Like Father, Like Son, which I encourage folks to come out to. It's by the filmmaker Koreeda, and it's a story of gosh, I don't know what to say without giving too much away, but it's a story of a family that seems to have it all, and they get a call from the hospital, and something kind of rocks their world. And I don't want to go into any more detail, but it's a great look at nature versus nurture, and that's maybe all I'll say to tempt.
Yeah.
And because the family is exposed to something that they couldn't believe was true, and they find out it is. And
Wow.
gosh, I'm that's so vague. But
That's
oh my
okay.
gosh, it's such a great little family drama, and I love it a lot. And then I haven't seen it yet, but the film from the director of The Separation, his newest film, The Past, we're screening, which I'm looking forward to as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of it. I hope it's a good season for us.
Yeah. It's a very exciting season. So much good stuff. But yeah, I think we'll get out of here. Jon, thank you so much for everything you do, and thank you so much for all the great stuff that we've got going on this semester. Thanks for all the hard work you do.
Thanks.
And we'll get out of here. So thank you guys very much for watching and listening. My name is Andy.
And I'm Jason.
This has been, and always will be, A Place for Film. A Place for Film is recorded at WFIU Studios in Bloomington, Indiana.